Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at an 8-0 run that I had in the Open Great League to get up to 27-19 ELO, getting right to the doorstep of hitting Expert. The team is built around Guzzlord, a Pokemon that I think is a lot of play in the current Open Great League meta. Guzzlord, not only can it handle Lickitung and the Ghost types very nicely, but it also does well into the many Water types that are absolutely everywhere this season. To round out the team, I have a Skarmory on the lead to give me a Charm Resist, and as the save switch, instead of a more traditional normal type like Vigoroth or Lickitung, I opted for Greedent. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. In the first game, we're met with a very unexpected Core Breaker on the lead, leading Skarmory into Galarian Stunfisk. I haven't seen Galarian Stunfisk in quite some time. It's definitely seen a pretty dramatic fall off in terms of usage, but here it is, and it's a Core Breaker. So I tank the Rock Slide, go for the Brave Bird, which for a resisted move still does quite a lot of damage, and then send in the Greedent. I'm checking to see, do they have any kind of fighter lurking in the back? They go for an Earthquake, and they send in a Sableye of all things, which is very, very interesting. My best guess is maybe they're assuming that I have a second good check to a Ghost type in the back, so they're thinking, you know what, may as well use the Sableye here and save the Galarian Stunfisk to deal with the Skarmory later on. But I'm very okay with this. They're overfarming quite a lot, and I'm going to no shield. The opponent goes for the Foul Play. It does not knock out the bulk of Greedent, able to make one final crunch, force the shield from the opponent. They get the farm down, but now I can send in the Skarmory, and Skarmory is not in a range where a Foul Play will knock out. They're one short of the back-to-back, so if one more Steel Wing KOs, they're not getting their move, and it does. That's very nice. In comes the Stunfisk. Stunfisk will be met with the Brave Bird. This will not knock out, but it will get my opponent quite low. Brave Bird connects in the back. It's a Venusaur, and it's all over for my opponent. In comes Guzzlord. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Moving into the next match, we see a much better lead, leading Skarmory into a Shadow Shiny Dragonite. What a flex. They're going to be able to outpace, and Shadow Superpower will do a lot in this matchup. So I'm expecting a Superpower and dip. They go for the Superpower, they send in Lickitung. I'm going to bank a ton of energy and then send in the Guzzlord. In hindsight, maybe I should have brought in Greedent, as a lot of the times, if they're running Shadow Dragonite, they have a Water in the back, and that could be really nice to have a resistance to Water with the Dragon type on Guzzlord. They're going to go for Body Slam after Body Slam. Still very okay by me. I'm going to be firing off the Dragon Claw. And Dragon Claw I don't think is going to be enough to two-shot, so to guarantee that it will KO, I will go for the harder hitting Crunch. My opponent doesn't really have much incentive to shield, so they're going to let that through. They get the farm down with the Dragonite. I send in the Skarmory. I go for the Sky Attack. I didn't see what they switched into, but it felt like they switched, and they did. It's a Lantern. So it definitely would have been nice to have the Guzzlord, but I still should be in a pretty good position. Greedent, the Mud Shots will slowly add up, and I do dramatically outpace the Lantern with my 8-turn Body Slams. I commit the shield. It is going to be the Surf Bait from the opponent, and now we're back to shield parity. I'm at back-to-back Body Slams, so I'm going to be able to output a lot of shield pressure onto the Lantern. Lantern is deciding to let that go, and I have a choice to make. I decide to call it. It is just going to be the Surf. Timer's up. In comes the Dragonite, taking advantage of the fact that I'm unable to switch. Body Slam does get shielded, sending in the Skarmory. They make a move, and this is actually looking losable here. I let it go. I send in the Greedent. Greedent, Body Slam will KO, and it all comes down to this. Can I survive 4 Sparks on the Greedent? Opponent has played this very well, but the Greedent is able to hold on and make the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to knock out Lantern. We're still able to take the win, but if I brought Greedent into the Licky save switch, that game would have been a lot cleaner. We see a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Skarmory into Vigoroth, but the opponent actually does not stay in that matchup. They're going to immediately switch out into Sableye, and I get to respond with Greedent. My best guess is, if they're hard switching out of what's not even a bad lead for them, they're probably running an ABB style team, so it very well could be something where they need to bait out a normal type to let their closer sweep. I'm more than happy to send in the Greedent. I can double crunch, shield once, commit to a farm down, and I should be able to get multiple charge attacks off versus that Vigoroth. And as long as I can just get damage onto that Vigoroth, it's going to become a lot more manageable for the Skarmory. So I will get the Mud Shot farm down. I'm unfortunately not going to make triple Body Slam, so I do decide to go for the Crunch, just on the 30% chance that I do actually get a defense drop. The Crunch connects, and I actually get the defense drop. Normally, when I try and just throw a Crunch, I don't often get that, so it was pretty cool to have it happen. They're now pretty low. I can send in the Skarmory. Oh no, in the back, it's Giratina Origin. They are completely walled, and they resign the match. We're back to a familiar lead in the next match, Skarmory versus Shadow Dragonite. A lot of dragons in this ELO range. They're actually not throwing the superpower and switching out there. They're staying in, which is a very interesting play. I'm able to grab a shield with the Sky Attack. I know that even with all this Dragon Breath damage, a superpower still shouldn't knock out. I have a very high rank Skarm, so I am going to let this through. Superpower, not going to be an issue. They're throwing another charge attack. That's very okay by me. I'm just going to let this through and try for an aggressive double resisted Mud Shot. Farm down, and I'm barely able to get it. They send in Empoleon, and I'm extremely happy to see the Empoleon here, as Empoleon would not be a good time for the Guzzlord whatsoever, but I have shield advantage, I have a big energy advantage by Mud-Shotting down, and now I've just gotten my opponent deep into the red health. I decide to commit the shield. It seems like whatever they have in back is not a massive fan of Greedent, so I will look to go for the Body Slam now, as I've gotten them into range where a resisted move will knock out. They commit the shield, I send in the Guzzlord. In the back, it is Lickitung. And that was one thing that I did enjoy about this team, is that if the opponent has a Lickitung, they're going to have a really hard time, because Lickitung has 0 positive matchups into this team. Like, Skarmory is able to beat it, the Greedent's able to beat it, and the Guzzlord is able to beat it as well. So the opponent just hid that Lickitung in the back, hoping against hope that it will be able to find a good alignment, but that is not to be. I go for the crunch, and we can see there the tasks update, so they did concede the match right as that crunch was clicked. Moving to the next match, what do you know? Another Dragon, Skarmory into Hakamo-o. They're going to save switch into Whiscash. I'm going to be staying in this matchup with the Skarmory, and here I honestly make a pretty big mistake. I should have waited for them to Scald first, because I don't really want to give them a massive energy head start versus the Guzzlord. I can send in the Guzzlord, and I'm up a shield, but I'm going to have to give that shield back, and probably give a second shield back as well, because they just have a massive energy head start. So I would have been better off letting them Scald me first, and then Brave Birding. Even if they did get the debuff, I'm more than happy to take a Scald on the Skarmory, whereas now I'm probably going to have to double shield my Guzzlord, because a Crunch is not going to be able to knock out here. The Crunch is going to connect. I get the defense drop, but it's still not enough. So not the greatest play pattern in this particular game for me. I'm going to get the farm down with the Guzzlord. They send in Hakamo-o. I will make the Dragon Claw though. I did have enough residual energy, and this will do some very nice damage to the Hakamo-o. In comes the Skarmory. Opponent has a Skarmory of their own, and this does get a little bit tricky. I will go for the Brave Bird and then look to switch out. The Brave Bird gets no shielded. That is very nice, and now I can send in Greedent. They're going to need 2 charge attacks to pick up a KO. I'm not going to throw right away, because this forces them to go for a Sky Attack. They don't want to debuff their defense when I have a bunch of energy, because then I'm going to be able to do way more damage. So I force them to go for the Sky Attack. Now I can go for the Crunch. They no-shield it, so I can now make them shield Body Slams, because they pretty desperately need this Skarmory to be able to win the game for them. I'm looking to get to another Body Slam, but it's not going to happen. The Sky Attack will KO. I send in my own Skarmory, and the question will be, when does their switch timer come up? In comes the Hakamo-o, but it is too little too late. Hakamo-o unable to make the Brick Break. Sky Attack picks up the KO. I'm not in Brave Bird range, so I will get the Steel Wing down my opponent's Skarmory and continue the win streak. We see just a terrific lead in the next match. Skarmory into a non-Shadow Gligar. Bit of a surprise to see the non-Shadow Gligar. My best guess is the opponent just doesn't have a good Shadow one, as the Shadow is typically going to be preferred most of the time. They end up going for the Aerial Ace as well, so they're just looking for chip damage. The Dig is the more energy efficient move to go for here, but in this instance, they're probably just assuming that they can actually get off 2 Aerial Aces, where they may not be able to get off 2 Digs. I will go for the Brave Bird. That does big damage. I get the farm down. I'm debuffed, so I may need to switch out depending on what they send in. They send in a Sableye. I decided to just go for the Brave Bird to guarantee big damage or their shield, and then I can look to pivot. In comes the Greedent. Opponent has a Shadow Poliwrath, and this is an uncomfortable Pokemon for this team to see, as this entire team does not have a lot of fast move pressure into the Shadow Poliwrath. I'm able to make it to a Body Slam before they make a Scald, and an Icy Wind would not knock out here. Opponent actually lets that through, which is quite nice. And now the question will be, can I knock out with a Dragon Tail? If I can knock out with a Dragon Tail, they won't make the move, but look at the HP on that Poliwrath, man. It's just able to hang on. And now I'm in a bit of trouble. I should have sent in the Skarmory into the Poliwrath to force them to throw. Now, I'm forced to switch in the Skarmory to reset my debuff. They don't want me to get to a Sky Attack, so they will go for the foul play, and it's all up to Guzzlord to clutch the game. Opponent, oh no, they throw on poor timing. They give an entire Dragon Tail for free as they full send the return, and this is just going to be game over as I have the back-to-back Dragon Claws. Opponent realizes it, they just no shield, and we continue the win streak. Moving to the next match, and we're met with a very familiar lead, Skarmory and Vigoroth. This Vigoroth is staying in this matchup. They're going to overfarm by 1 and play to the CMP tie. I do survive a Rock Slide, so I am going to no shield, but that does do a solid amount of my remaining HP. I return fire with the Sky Attack bait. I get the shield from the opponent, and I'm expecting them to try and go for CMP again, so I'm going to farm up to the Brave Bird, switch into the Greedent, and hopefully catch the Rock Slide. Rock Slide will still hit for neutral, but it is less efficient compared to them throwing a Body Slam. Oh, they try and go for a Body Slam catch onto the Sableye, but I was just looking to overfarm. So they're unable to get that catch of the double resisted move, and now I can spam out Crunch after Crunch onto the Sableye. Crunch number 2 is going to connect. Sableye pretty low on health. Sableye, I don't think this is quite foul play range. We were in this range before, and I was able to survive, so they are going to full send the return. I send in the Guzzlord and get the farm down. And now I have a Guzzlord, up a shield, up energy. My opponent does have some energy on the Vigoroth. They send in the Vigoroth, but they throw a counter. They don't end up throwing the move. So I can Dragon Claw, force the shield, combo play, and they still don't throw their energy. This is just going to knock out the Vigoroth. They lose the energy they had, although in the back they had a Giratina, and even if they did throw their energy, I don't really see a path forward considering the health that I had remaining on the Guzzlord. We're now 4-0 in the set, looking for the 5-0. We see a terrific lead as I lead the Skarmory into the Shadow Abomasnow, but they save switch into a Shadow Quagsire, and that's actually a bit of a difficult spot for me to be in. So I'm going to learn from my mistake. The last time they save switch a Mudboy, I stay in, I tank a move, grab the shield, and now I can send in the Guzzlord. Guzzlord can absorb any one move, as my opponent is going to go for the Mud Bomb. I'm just going to look to overfarm. My opponent ends up throwing on alignment, so I do get the Dragon Tail for free, which is very nice, and that's because they full sent a Stone Edge. I'm going to build up to the back-to-back here. I didn't want to risk throwing one more, because I was a little worried they would make it to another move. They send in the Abomasnow. I'm going straight for the Crunch. In hindsight, I think I should have gone for double Dragon Claw, but in the moment, I was thinking that I could make it to a second Dragon Claw, and I barely cannot. I send in the Skarmory, the Steel Wing goes through, I'm going to let this through. It is going to be the Weather Ball, and in this moment, I actually thought that the Abomasnow survived on 1 HP. So you're going to see me play out the rest of the game from here, assuming later on that my opponent does have the ability to make a catch, when in fact, they do not. I was very locked in on the game and was very not locked in on how many Pokemon they had left remaining. Whereas I could have just looked in the top right and seen, okay, they only have 1 Mon left. I'm not going to have to like wait a turn, watch for the Abomasnow, anything like that. They're going to go for double Water Pulse. I'm building up to the back-to-back Body Slams. A Body Slam will not knock out here, however. So my opponent knows they can no shield. I'm going to look to farm up a ton of energy, switch into the Skarmory as they fire off a move. It is going to be the Water Pulse, and now you're going to see me build up to the back-to-back, wait a turn to make sure that they don't get the catch, because, again, I was still thinking that they had a Mon left, and I'm going to wait a turn again, and in this moment, I realize, oh, they don't have another Mon. That got knocked out, but we do end up getting the 5-0 from 2650 ELO, and I'm able to get up to 2719 with the 5-0. All good things must come to an end, so we'll take a look at how the win streak ended. Tough lead, Skarmory into Charjabug. I throw 1 Steel Wing, and I defer the Volt Switch damage onto Greedent, and I'm still able to outpace and make the Body Slam just before they make the X-Scissor. Body Slam will connect. They're going to save the energy and send in a Mandibuzz. And this, oh man, this is not going well. This is not going well whatsoever. I think I'm going to have to try and stall timers, make catches, do what I can to try and just maneuver my way around this position, because currently they have energy loaded on the Charjabug. Energy is very good into my non-Greedent Pokemon, so this is looking extremely difficult to win, and the match has only just started. The Body Slam will connect. I'm going to farm up, switch into the Skarmory, and I am able to get the catch. It is going to be the Dark Pulse. Their timer will be up, so they will send in the Charjabug. I'm trying to make it to the Brave Bird, but unfortunately, I do lose CMP, and I'm low enough that a Discharge will be able to pick up the knockout. Back in comes the Greedent. Greedent will go for the Body Slam. Body Slam not going to be enough to knock out, but it will get my opponent low. They fire off their energy. That's perfectly fine. I should be able to knock out in 3 Dragon Tails. So I don't think I'll have to take a move. Oh, I'm not sure if that was 1-turn lag or if they did get the new mechanic, but I am forced to burn a shield. But then they come back in with the Mandibuzz. So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe it's something in the back that I do have play against. If it's something like a Giratina, this is still very winnable for me. I try and go for the farm down. I can't quite get it, so I'm forced to throw the Dragon Claw when they make it to their Aerial Ace. Dragon Claw will KO. In the back, it's a Azumarill. Okay. That was just triple hard counter. Try what I could there, but unfortunately, that is how the win streak comes to an end. All in all, I do think that Guzzlord is a very strong contender in this new water-heavy Open Great League meta. When it comes to team building around Guzzlord for the Open Great League, I do think it is a little bit tricky, as you can find Pokemon that can cover a lot of Guzzlord's weaknesses very well, but you'll often find yourselves ABA weak to 1 or 2 potentially problem Pokemon, like in this particular instance, the Skarmory Guzzlord core. Skarmory can cover the weaknesses fairly well, but if you run into something like a 2-Shield Poliwrath, or something even like a Bastiodon, then it could prove to be a bit problematic. So I do think that Guzzlord is a very strong pick for the Open Great League, but careful team building around it is required, as a lot of the times you're going to find yourself weak to 1 or more Pokemon, and it's more so just figuring out which ones you think are going to be less of an issue and trying to play around it from there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.